Moves are options from the nodes. This is a move. This is a move. Right? So you have decision nodes, and then you have moves. Obviously, the moves are from. They're not drawn directionally, but the idea is that. Right? The idea is that. All right. So moves are options from the node. I have an option to do this or do that. Is the decision node. Once I make the choice and I move towards that, my selection of that option is a move. Right? Moves are exclusively disjunctive. Right? And I've done logic on exclusive disjunctions and so on and so forth. Exclusive disjunction means, and I'm adding way more than what's traditionally discussed in sort of game theoretics, because a lot of people who watch my channel also watch the logic I do. So for those of you who didn't know, f of x such that we do not have a state of affairs where it is both a of x and b of x, right? It's not going to be both, right? If we were to label this just hypothetically a and b, it can't be both. It's either this or that, right? It's either this or that. Sorry, I didn't put that. No. It's not the case that it's a and ax and bx, right? It's not going to be both. It can be either this or it can be that, but it can't be both of these, right? And that's obvious, right? You can go left, or you can go right, but you can't go both left and right. You can't decide to go down both paths. So in the construction of your game tree, recognize that the opportunity to go down both paths, both moves, is not an option. That would be sort of an incorrect formulation of a game tree. You can go one or the other, but not both, which means that it's an exclusive disjunction. Your choice is excluding some other potential choice. Okay, outcomes, number 3. Right, outcomes are also known as terminal nodes, right? Terminal nodes, and these are consequences, right? So I might say, just as an example, I might say that this is a consequence of A, and this is a consequence of, and this is a consequence of B. Just for a visual. I'll construct a tree in a little bit. And this would be this is my outcome. Right? This is the outcome of my initial decision. So here's my decision, and here's the outcome of my decision. I decided to go right, or I decided to go left. This is my attempt to make a decision. I moved, and I decided to go right. And B would represent the actualization of me choosing to go right. Right? So this is the outcome or terminal terminal node. Right? Because it's a node, but it's a terminal node. So the first one is my decision node, and the final node is my outcome. My outcome is my terminal node. Okay. The last bit, and then we'll actually get into the game. The information set. This whole thing then is your information set. I'll just put info set. Right. This informational set is a collection of decision nodes and moves. Right. So my decision nodes, my moves, I arrive at my outcomes. All of this becomes my information set. My information set is sort of the collection of the decisions that I made, the moves that I took, the paths that I followed, and the consequences that followed from that is a result of it's collectively called my information set. Okay, so now that we have all of sort of the theoretical conditions satisfied, it's time to actually construct a hypothetical game tree. So in this, we're going to be looking at a particular war. Pick whatever war you want, pick whatever parties you want, doesn't matter. And we're going to see how this conflict escalates and what the significance of this conflict is. So everything that I said before is probably, if this is the first time you've heard about game theoretics and game tree construction, then it's probably like still in the air. But after the explanation of the tree, and again, if I always amend the PDF until I reach the conclusion of the lecture. So I just added this tonight. So make sure you get the latest version of the PDF, even if you downloaded it before it's been updated. Make sure on page 16 you have that image, and we'll go through together, and I'll lead you through the construction of this game. Okay, 2 parties to the game. First, let's look at all of the terms. I don't have to write it on the board because I have it on the PDF. So again, download the PDF so you can follow on. E in the game stands for escalate. It means that the conflict intensifies. D in the game means de-escalate. It means the conflict is not intensifying. It's becoming more peaceful, right? The number 1 stands for the first party. It's just whoever is a party to the game. So if it's America versus Libya, then America's 1, Libya's 2, whatever. If it's US versus Russia, 1, 2, whatever. So parties to the game. 1 stands for the first party, whoever that party is. 2 stands for the second party, whoever that party is. P, the letter P stands for punishment. Now, I've already done a video, and I already have embedded in this PDF earlier, in the PDF, I forget what section, 1.2 or 1.3, a link to the prisoner's dilemma. So just Control F, prisoner's dilemma, in the PDF, hit the link, it'll take you over to the video, and you'll have a full-blown explanation in a different game, Theoretic. In a matrix version, not the tree version, but I created a game, matrices, to do the prisoner's dilemma game. In this version, what I'm doing is a sort of a new twist to the prisoner's dilemma game with respect to international war, right? And instead of doing it matrices on a matrix, I'm doing it in the tree. Okay, so P stands for punishment, and I'll talk about that in a second. T stands for temptation. S stands for sucker, like being a sucker. And R stands for reward. I didn't make this up. Like this is the name of what sucker is, the name that's given by, you know, academia. We call it a sucker. Okay, so here's the game. So I'm going to walk through the game as it is. Here I am, party 1, and I have a decision to make. I can either escalate the war, or I can de-escalate the war. I represent my attempt to escalate the war as E. I represent my attempt to de-escalate the war as D. There's a second party to this conflict. And this party has an opportunity to make choices as well. We recognize that the decision of both parties are atemporal, so it's not that I make my decisions before them or they make my decisions before me, but that we both have opportunities to make decisions. Now, party 2 can either escalate the war or de-escalate the war. So if I choose to escalate the war, then party 2 can choose to either escalate the war or de-escalate the war. Right? Now, if I choose to de-escalate the war, party 2 has an opportunity to choose to do exactly the same thing. Either escalate the war or de-escalate the war. Each of these points are, each of these 4 points are our outputs. Right? So these 4 points are the outputs to our game. These points are our nodes. These lines are our moves in the game. So if I were to talk about a specific move, let's say, I want a different color now, let's say the move that is represented by this path. First, I escalate the war, and then they de-escalate the war. I escalate first, and they de-escalate. This path, me first making this move, them making this move, is represented by a particular outcome. Remember, again, it doesn't have to be temporal. They could have de-escalated, chosen to de-escalate it. I could have chosen to escalate. We could have done it simultaneously. It doesn't matter, right? But for just pedagogical reasons, first I choose to escalate, then they choose to de-escalate. Okay, so let's look at all the outcomes, and I'll start in order, right? So let's look at the first path. The first path is, if I escalate, I want to intensify the war, and they want to intensify the war. We both want to intensify the war. If we both want to intensify the war, what I've done, and there was not a lot, but there was a little bit of work that it took to translate this escalation theory into a game theoretic, because you had to incorporate the prisoner's dilemma. I'm not going to go and discuss how I went about coming up with these conclusions, but for those of you who knows who know the Princess Dilemma and you know escalation, de-escalation of conflict, you'll see what I did. For everybody else, just take what I'm saying as sort of fact with respect to the construction of this particular game.